Coming up, Flamethrower.
One of my new favorite ways to...
Costco keeps the Costco.
Look at the difference in the market.
30 million cows. That's a lot of steak dinners. Check out all this beef. Got a tongue right there. What do you think it is? It looks like... All right, guys. We are about to flamethrow these steaks. All right, I really hope my neighbors are all asleep, because it's about to get crazy out here. Propane tank. All right. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's rewind. Nobody actually cooks a steak with a flamethrower. That's ludicrous. But I do use a flamethrower for a very specific part of the cooking process, and I will explain why. But first, a little bit of context. There are many different ways to cook a good steak. You can fire up the grill, bake it in the oven, cook it in a cast iron pan, or smoke it on your Traeger. One of my new favorite ways to cook a steak is using a French method called sous vide. Essentially, sous vide translates into under vacuum, which essentially means cooking in a vacuum sealed bag in a controlled water temperature. And I have to get a shout out to my friend Bryson Smith for inspiring me to try this method of cooking. He is on Instagram. To cook sous vide, I use the Innova Culinary sous vide cooker. So far, I'm pleased with its performance. Here's how the process works. First, I season my steaks with the basics. Kosher salt, coarse black pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. Then I vacuum seal the steaks individually using my NutriChef vacuum sealer and let them marinate in the fridge anywhere from 6 hours to overnight. When I'm ready to cook, I fill my plastic tank and preheat my sous vide to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. When the water has come to temperature, I place my sealed steaks into the bath to cook for 2 to 4 hours. It doesn't really make a difference how long you cook your sous vide steak, and that's the beauty of sous vide. You can leave it in there for 2 hours or 24 hours, and the steak is going to maintain a constant 130 degree temperature. Buying the right cut of steak can be kind of a complicated process. So I'm here at my favorite place to buy steak, Costco.
Costco. You see, I've got an exclusive membership card.
To show you how to choose out a good cut of steak and a good quality of steak. There are 3 grades of beef from the USDA: Prime, Choice, and Select. Prime is the highest grade of beef and usually comes from young, well-fed cattle. There's usually abundant fat marbling in the meat as compared to Choice and Select. Choice is also a high quality and high grade of meat, just with a little bit less marbling. And Select is the lowest quality of steak that you can usually buy. The reason I like buying steak from Costco is that they have a good selection of Choice and Prime steaks to buy. When you're looking for the different USDA grades of beef, you have to look for the USDA sticker on the package. If the meat does not have a USDA sticker, it is not a true USDA grade. And you'll notice here at Costco the 2 different types of stickers. You've got USDA Choice and then the gold USDA Prime. One of the biggest differences that you'll notice when shopping for USDA Choice and USDA Prime beef
is the price. You'll notice here, these are 2 packs of ribeye steak, but the price per pound for a choice steak is $10.99, and the price per pound for a prime steak is $17.99. So you can see it's almost double the cost for upgrading from a choice steak to a prime steak. You'll taste the biggest difference in prime and choice steaks when you're eating actual steak cuts from the beef. So for this reason, you'll notice that most of the prime cuts of beef that are sold at stores like Costco are actual steak cuts. In the choice section, you'll also find steak cuts of beef, but you can also find some other cuts like top round and bottom round roasts. With regards to the difference in marbling between choice and prime beef, I've got 2 filet mignons here. And look at the difference in the marbling between the prime cut right here and the choice cut. You'll notice in the choice cut, there's a little bit of white speckles throughout the meat, but over in the prime, you'll see abundant white marbling throughout the entire cut of steak. Choosing between choice and prime cuts of meat can also come down to personal preference. If you're someone that doesn't really like a lot of fat or marbling in your steak, then you might just want to go with choice regardless of price. But if you're someone that's looking for a very tender or juicy steak with a little bit of marbling, then prime might be worth it to you. My personal opinion is that if I were going to eat a filet mignon or a ribeye steak, then I would consider upgrading to a prime cut. But for all other cuts of steak, I would probably prefer to go with a choice cut. You're going to get a lot better prices and you won't see that much of a difference in the quality of the steak. The best cuts of steak come from the center or loin section of the cow. And the general rule of thumb is the further away from the horns and hoofs, the more tender the meat. There are 8 main cuts of beef, also known as the 8 primal cuts: chuck, rib, loin, round, flank, short plate, brisket, and shank. After that, the beef is divided in sub-primal cuts. Butchers normally start with sub-primal cuts and then cut those into the individual portion cuts you're sold at the store. The round roasts come from the back of the cow above the back legs, and the meat is usually chewy and tough. Meat from the round section of the beef is commonly used for stews and other recipes that call for cubed meat. When you're not worried too much about the quality of the beef and you're looking for quantity at a good price, then the round sections of the beef might be a good option for you. Round roast and chuck roast are both good options for slow cookers like pot roasts, whereas a chuck roast might have a little bit more fat and a little more juiciness. The top round roast is going to be a lot leaner and tougher piece of meat. The loin section of the cattle is where you'll find some of the most popular and most tender cuts of steak. The New York steak is one of my favorite cuts of steak and comes from the short loin. This steak is best grilled on a barbecue, cooked sous vide, or your favorite mode of preparation for a good steak. Top sirloin steak comes from the sirloin section of the cattle and is a bit more lean than the New York or ribeye cuts of steak, but it's also a lower cost steak. This steak is a favorite of people who enjoy a very lean steak at an affordable price. The tenderloin steak or filet mignon is found in the tenderloin section of the cattle and is thought by many to be the most tender cut of steak you can buy. For this reason, you'll frequently see very high prices on tenderloin steak, and it is often a delicacy reserved for steakhouses. The tri-tip roast and tri-tip steaks come from the bottom sirloin section of the cattle. I enjoy cooking both these types of steak, although I do prepare them slightly differently. The tri-tip steaks I enjoy cooking on a barbecue gas grill as if I were preparing any other type of steak, whereas a tri-tip roast can be a little bit easier prepared with a low and slow cook on a smoker. Flank steak comes from the flank section of the cow. Flank steak is a very tender and juicy cut of steak With mild seams of fat throughout, this steak is very good prepared on a gas grill and can also be used in recipes like carne asada. The ribeye steak comes from the ribs section of the cow. In this section of the cow, you can also find back ribs and the prime rib roast. This is a fattier section of the cow, but it has a lot of flavor and juiciness that you definitely don't want to overcook. Some other common cuts of beef that you'll frequently find are chuck roasts and chuck steaks that are found in the shoulder of the cow. These can be a little tricky to cook and are best cooked in a crock pot or slow cooker in order to give the meat enough time to break down the collagens. However, when cooked properly, chuck roast can be a very tasty pot roast for your next Sunday dinner. The brisket of the cow is found right underneath the chest. This is a very hard-working muscle, and the cow puts a lot of weight on this section of meat. For this reason, this piece of meat can be very, very tough with a lot of very strong fibers of fat throughout. But when brisket is prepared low and slow on a smoker, it can be one of the tastiest cuts of beef you can buy. You can also commonly find USDA prime brisket at your local Costco for a very good price.
Okay, where were we? I usually buy New York steaks and look for good ones based on the criteria we just talked about. I also like to cook my steak to 130 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit. That ends up being about medium to medium rare. The general thought is that the higher the internal temperature you cook your steak, the more tough and dry the steak is going to become. If you're normally a medium well or well done type of person, I challenge you to try medium or even medium rare. It could change your life. Let's do a poll. In the top corner of this video, click the icon and answer the question, how do you like your steak cooked? Let's find out how many of you sissies eat your steak medium well.
Now this is how you eat a microwaved steak. Okay, so I'm totally kidding. I would never waste a good steak. You didn't see me put saran wrap in the garbage can. The best way to reheat a steak is to use a toaster oven or even your real oven. Set your toaster oven to a low temperature, like 250, bake, and let your steak slowly warm up in the toaster oven for about 5 to 10 minutes. Blasting your steak with electrons in the microwave is only gonna make your steak tough, dry, and chewy.
Gross.
Honest truth, I'm eating my reheated steak right now, and it tastes great. Gosh, my dog is right here and she will not stop whining for her steak. There you go. Here's where the flamethrower comes into the story. Your sous vide steaks will come out looking pretty gross. The inside looks fantastic, I promise, but the outside is a little bleh. When you cook sous vide, you need to sear your steak. You can do this in a cast iron pan, a hot grill, with a butane torch, or whatever method you prefer. I personally prefer a flamethrower.
Why, you ask?
Because my flamethrower sears my steak insanely fast, locks in the juices, and doesn't distract from that beautiful flavor that we've already created. It quickly adds a nice little crust, and you're ready to go. I learned this method from the Sous Vide Everything YouTube channel. Shout out to my Brazilian friends over there. Fala galera do sous vide. Seus vídeos são os melhores. I'll link to the tournament videos below in the description, where you can watch where they did a challenge of 10 different ways to sear a steak to find out which is the best method.
Spoiler alert.
The flamethrower wins. Obviously. I'm putting my cooked steaks right here from the sous vide, right here on my flame throwing rack. We're gonna torch them. Let's go. We got people, neighbors are home. And we're done. Check out those bad boys. There you have it, guys. Flamethrower steaks. I freaking love steak! Do you know what else I love? Cows. But I love to eat them even more. Cows like this weigh roughly 1,200 pounds, and about 44% of a cow is edible beef. That's about 460 pounds of steak. That's a lot of steak dinners. The word steak literally translates into meat on a stick. When we're thinking about the word steak, we're usually thinking about beef, but the word actually comes from the Saxons, who were very skilled in the art of cattle rustling. They used the term steak to refer to meat on a stick, which could be used to describe beef or any other type of meat. Let's do a quiz. What is the most popular day to eat beef in America? Is it Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, or New Year's Day? The most popular day to eat beef in America is Memorial Day, followed closely by the 4th of July and Labor Day. Now, there are over 30 million cows just like this guy right here in the United States alone that are used for beef each year. Only about 3% of all cattle in the US will be graded by USDA as prime beef, 70% will be choice, and 20% will be select. The rest of the beef falls into lower categories used for canning and other processes like hot dogs and dog food, and is normally not sold in stores. What are you, Mr. Cow? Are you a prime beef? You look like you could be prime. You're eating good. The world's most expensive steak almost appears white when raw. That's because it is incredibly marbled with fat to give it a very, very extreme tenderness and juiciness flavor. These cattle are unique in the sense that they don't use their muscles like other cattle do. The result is the beef has so much fat content that when raw, the steak becomes pale and almost appears to be white. Wagyu Kobe beef is very expensive, and it's thought that there's only 3,000 of these cattle raised each year. Kobe beef is also now raised in the United States as well as in Japan, although the exact number of Kobe beef cattle in the United States is up for debate. I can't afford Kobe beef, but if this video gets 10,000 likes, I will personally order and cook a Kobe steak to show you guys if it actually is worth the hundreds of dollars. How's it going? Good, how are you? So to learn how beef is butchered, I'm here with the guys at Carson Meats, and we're gonna learn how to cut up some of the different parts of a cow.
This here's the round steaks. That's the bottom round. This here is the top round. What we usually do with them is we make cube steaks. Or they call them country fried steaks sometimes. That goes through with a cuber over there and make them more tender. This here is the sirloin. Them are rump roast. This is going to be the knuckle. These guys are all making hamburger. That's the meat grinder over there.
Are these ribs, right? Are these ribs?
Yeah, short ribs. The ribs that we're going to put in the hamburger, they don't want them, so we're just trimming them up, putting them in hamburger.
Okay, so this is all turning into hamburger.
Yep, all is right here.
It turns into hamburger. So there's some ground beef coming out of the spaghetti maker there.
get about 24 ribeye steaks off a whole beef, an average size beef.
Okay.
You get about 28 T-bone steaks. You get about 32 sirloin steaks. You get about 8 tenderloins, and you get about 6 whole rounds. And you can make chuck steaks, which usually go in a chuck roast. We make them into steaks. And you get the flat iron steaks.
Sirloin sometimes.
Sometimes they put the knuckle sirloin tip in the steaks. Just depends on how you want it cut. If it's a really good marble beef, they make more steaks out of the roast and less roast, and they put the steaks. My favorite cut of steak is what they call a flat iron steak.
Okay.
It's not very common, but it's very, very good. It comes out of the front shoulder. Next is a ribeye steak.
We got flank steak right here.
Flank steaks comes right out of this right here.
I also love brisket. I have a smoker. I'm really into like smoking meat. I love smoking brisket.
Bigger.
But I'll smoke any type of meat.
Pull that veil off right there. Trim it up.
These guys know how to work. And you guys are like surgeons over here.
Yeah.
Making this look clinical.
That's your flank right
There you go, right there. Flank steak.
This is sirloin steak.
Oh, there's a sirloin. Wait. Oh, right there? That's our brisket? That's our brisket right there, folks. You guys are like surgeons in here. I'm not gonna lie, I'm impressed.
Sirloin tip roast. All that's gonna go in a hamburger. And then we're gonna cut another half down here.
How long does it take you guys to butcher like one of those carcasses?
How big it is.
You can get through an hour. You can get through the whole thing. Yeah.
If they're small, we can do it in like 30 minutes.
I can see cow, but I don't know what it looks like. A tongue.
Tongue.
You got a tongue right there.
Oh man, now we're talking.
Check out all this beef. That is a lot of beef.
This is a half beef.
This is half. You can see it cut in half right here.
This is the front shoulder, and that's the hind quarter.
Front shoulder right there. And we're just taking a big old knife and just slicing her in half. Oh, we didn't have the power tools. What type of grade would this beef be?
Probably close to choice.
Select a choice.
Choice, a little more flatter, a little more marbling.
Hold on, I gotta get this.
Look at that.
All right, hands on the camera stick.
I did it actually last March.
Oh man.
This is the pound. That's where you make your cube steaks from, right there.
You cube that stuff up right there.
Right here too. Top down.
Do you guys think there's a big difference between like eating prime steaks, like prime graded steaks versus choice or select?
Oh yeah.
Like, is it worth, you guys think it's worth like the extra price tag?
Let me tell you two things. Okay, there's two things that Mormon won't do. You know what they are? How does that go, Wade?
Two things that Mormon won't break: the 10 Commandments and a $10 bill.
That's so true.
I mean, this kind of a deal here is more of a choice. It's at the upper end on our retail out there. So you're going to get the people that's more well off.
Yeah.
And they will come in and spend the money just for that choice, that prime beef.
Yeah. So this beef here, this looks pretty lean to me. Is this pretty lean, would you say?
This is pretty lean. I mean, compared to the last one,
Yeah.
or kind of comparatively, it may be, it's pretty lean. Not a lot of marbling on it, The sirloins are usually always lean anyway.
Yeah,
Your
right.
tenderloins,
Right.
But yeah, this is a leaner beef. So these are those round rolls that you're talking about. Top, bottom. 1, 2, 6, 6. And so then we cube these ones.
That just sucks those right up.
Other steak.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I would think like most cattle are all kind of eating the same thing. So like what makes a cow be like a prime beef cow and then another one is like a select?
So there's actually a lot that goes into it. I mean, it's pretty technical, but you have different breeds of cattle. You know, like you have Angus, you have Herefords, you have Slayers. I mean, you know, the Herefords, I already say Herefords, but like the Holsteins, the Jerseys. I mean, there's just an array, and the cows are breeded depending on what you want it to do. Even Wagyu. Wagyu's been known to produce more marbling naturally, just like a fatter cow. But yeah, they're all kind of eating the same thing, wild grasses. But to get it prime, what people do is usually get them on grain as soon as possible. And that way they fatten them up more. It's just more calorie intake. Okay. You know what I mean? So instead of waiting 3 years on a grass-fed beef, you could get a prime product in 18 months to 2 years. You know what I mean? So it's, you know, it's genetics, it's the feed, it's you know, the age. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. And then also, I think a big difference is how you age them too. You know, whether you go 2 weeks or you go 3 weeks, I mean, they're gonna get, you know, more flavor or more tenderness. So there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot that plays into it.
Yep, I wrap everything.
T-bone, sirloin. So, I mean, as everything comes through,
We got it on the different trays.
as they get cut, they get put here. They're kept together. Like these are all chuck roasts. Like you can see T-bones. Nice. Ribeyes. Okay. So they're all, yeah, somewhat kept together.
And so this program, you're able to put their name, what it is, not for sale frozen at the day that it was packaged. So each thing has a number to punch in that registers what cut it is.
I don't know what that is.
What do you think it is?
It looks like, is that a bone or was that cartilage?
And the tail.
Oh, the tail! He gave it away! It was the tail! You don't eat the tail though. Oh, look, there you go, the tail.
Oxtail soup. You never had oxtail soup?
I've never had oxtail soup. There you have it, folks. Again, thank you for letting me come. This is really cool. Look at that, clean table. These guys are impressive.
Do you know what else is impressive? You guys. I wanted to do something special for everyone who made it all the way through this video. So I put together a giveaway box with some of my favorite things used for cooking a good steak. Let's see, what do we got in here? We've got this nice cutting board. Ooh, we've got some other goodies in here. I'm not gonna tell you what else is in my giveaway box. Can't see what's in there. But if you've been participating, if you've been commenting, if you've been participating in the polls, showing some love on this video with thumbs up and subscribing and all that, yada yada, you guys get that. Then I'm gonna pick a winner for my steak giveaway box. I'll be announcing my winner in an upcoming video, so make sure you're subscribed so you know if you won my giveaway, because I'm gonna announce it on a future video. You guys are the best. Remember, knowledge is power. We'll see you in the next video.